Hi, everybody. I'd like to talk about the idea of hearing from the point of view of somebody who went to India in order to study philosophy and music and stayed there for many years. And the first idea that comes to me is the word shruti, which in Sanskrit means that which is heard. And Shruti describes the most sacred scriptures of India, the Veda, which include the Upanishads, these poetico-philosophical texts. So what is most precious to them is something they call something heard, something received. The sense of hearing with the animals is connected with the animals that are preyed, while the sense of sight is strong in the animals that are hunting, like the eagle. And at the human level, hearing is connected with receiving, taking in, whereas sight is more a sense that gives us a control of a situation. We have an oversight, and when we are given an explanation, when we say, I see, it means we feel we have grasped the subject. So it's connected with receiving. And does this sense of receiving something beyond the scope of day-to-day understanding, which is what they meant by the word shruti in ancient times in India, does it have a meaning today, as it comes from an ancient and probably what we would call a mystical tradition? And I believe that it does have. You can see in science today that scientists do speak about discoveries as things that seem to come to them, sometime in a flash. And artists also speak of getting an idea from somewhere, which is beyond the ordinary scope of daily life. So this special sense of hearing is still there today. And I believe it's there for everybody in different manners, not just artists or scientists. And what does it mean in an age of superabundant data that we have today? Well, there is an idea again in Sanskrit, which is the word prapancha. Prapancha describes a movement of the mind. It's the mind that goes from an idea to another, to more and more and more and more ideas and sounds, and goes basically to confusion. And they describe an opposite movement of the mind going slowly zeroing down to less and less ideas and towards silence. And naturally, the Indian traditions will tend to take us towards that silence. So does it mean that we have to, live in a forest and stop being in the digital era in order to get that silence? I'm not sure of that. I would rather say that it's a question of understanding the idea that they're explaining, if it can be useful. And so how do they reach this density of mind with less and less ideas, actually? So first thing is that their teachings are oral traditions, which means that if you want to study music or philosophy, you have to have a teacher that tells you the things. It's not as if you could learn the things from a book. They believe you cannot, because it's not information you learn, it's information given by a teacher. It's the information plus the presence. And so you can never simplify it in the form of a digital thing, digital data. This is the main point. And another thing is that they say that the human being has 5 organs of action in the same way that we have 5 senses of perception. And the foremost, the most powerful is speech. And it's more powerful than hands and feet in that tradition, in the sense that the consequences of speech can be far greater than the consequences of what you do with your hands and feet. And so a teacher will use words as having weight, because words have consequences. And by the way, the teacher in Sanskrit is guru, as everybody knows that word, and it comes from a root that means heavy. And it's because the teacher is the person whose words have weight. And so when you have this kind of teaching, as a student, you will develop the hearing that is adapted to this kind of speech. And I like to say something about my study of music. I studied Drupad, which is the ancient style of music in North India, very meditative. And I had a wonderful teacher who hardly spoke. And naturally, as a European, I was completely starved of explanations that I never got. However, I did get some words sometimes that were meaningful, and because they were scarce, they took so much importance that I was thinking of them for months together. And also, other things than words took meaning, like the way the teacher lives, the way he's in a state of acceptance of things that happen in life, as a parallel of his being like an open door to the phrases when he's improvising music. And you become sensitive to many things of life as a student that actually become a language, and you kind of hear something from them because there is a scarcity of words. Now, one more thing is the style itself. When you come from the West, it's a style with no harmony, no orchestration, hardly any ornaments. And the form of the longest part of a performance, alap, is an improvisation note by note of the mode in the ascending order. So there is no simpler structure that you can think about. It's like a super simple recipe of music with few ingredients, but then you have to explore them very deeply. And you can explore them because you don't have so many. You explore the note and the way it lives, the way it's not fully immobile, the way it moves towards another note, the interval of a note to another you explore also, and naturally the mode and the rhythm. And this music naturally is a way of zeroing down the mind, and it's a set of sounds that take you towards the shore of silence. And about silence, it is necessary to have silence between phrases of music and also between phrases of speech to have meaning, because otherwise you have a phrase that's unending and you cannot even think of what you hear, and therefore it has no meaning for you. You have to have gaps and silences within speech or music so that you put the sounds on the background of your own mind and understanding and make them your own and know what meaning they have for you. And that's why in an age of unending information that's coming to us, we tend to feel that there is absolutely no meaning because there is no time for us to consider at all what we are hearing. And to end, I would like to tell an image that a sage of 19th century called Sri Ramakrishna used to say, speaking about students, disciples. He said, when you get a new student, it's like a water jug that's empty and you put in the river to fill it with water. It makes noise. You know, it makes gloop, gloop, gloop. And when the student is ripe and has heard, it's like the jug that is full. It makes absolutely no sound. So I wish all of us the silence of the water jug that comes from that kind of hearing.